Hi, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you to Microsoft's Future Ready Application Summit. My name is Vijayant Rai. I head Microsoft's BFSI business for the country. And on behalf of the organization, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to this panel discussion on BFSI. It's also my pleasure to welcome two of my esteemed panelists. We have Mahika Oberoi, who's the Director of Corporate Strategy at IFL, and Mohit Gopal. Mohit is the Chief Operating Officer of PayU. So very warm welcome to both my panelists. India's financial service industry is undergoing rapid expansion, which is thanks to policy support, wide digital adoption, and business innovation. Modernizing the business today entails modernizing applications, which can deliver consistent and adaptive user experience, scale to support the growth, and stay resilient. The Indian industry is basically poised to take benefit or an advantage of this transformation by leveraging modern application platforms that have differentiated capabilities, may it be modularity or interoperability or being intelligent and adaptive, in terms of functionality. The panel discussion today, we will explore the needs, challenges, aspirations of India's BFSI industry and the unique role that modern applications can play in the industry's transformation journey. So without further ado, I'd like to bring in both my panelists and start off by getting their views on the subject at hand. If it's okay, I'll start off with you, Mahika. Hi, and again, welcome. Hi, Mahika. And I just probably wanted to get your views in terms of, when we look at financial institutions today, each of them have, a stack or a collection of APIs to promote digital solutions across customer relationships. What, in your view, is the significance of APIs in driving embedded finance with ecosystem of customers, partners, and other stakeholders? And if you can share some of the best practices in driving adoption in terms of consumption of these APIs.
So, if you look at the financial services industry, right, over the last few years, there has been a lot of focus which has gone towards API. Now, companies are becoming more API friendly, and what is driving the growth or is going to drive the future growth is going to be an API first approach. So, even at IFL now, we are focusing on the API first approach. Now, when we say API first, what essentially it means is that we make our APIs and we open our APIs on an open API platform where every fintech which wants to offer financial services can consume from a backend any services that IFL is offering them. So let's say tomorrow there is a platform which is wanting to lend on its platform. It can come to our open API platform and take our lending APIs and start a lending journey on its platform. Now, lending was one of the use cases that it just wanted to offer. Increasingly, as you see globally, companies are making their APIs more available so that embedded finance can pick up. Now, there are a lot of use cases globally. Most of the European banks have opened their APIs so that banking can be made available very, very easily to any startup which is starting up and wanting to offer a banking front end, which is why, if you look at neobanks, the neobanking space has evolved because banks had opened up their APIs. Now, similarly, in India, embedded finance is at nascent stages, but embedded finance is picking up. Just to give a little example of how embedded finance work, it could be any tech company, an e-commerce company, a company which is just offering one aspect of financial services, a fintech company, and they are wanting to offer more financial services on its platform. For example, we log in into a Flipkart every day. If we want to order some of our needs, we log in into Amazon. Now, when these guys want to give financial services to its customer, because their approach is that everything should be under one umbrella, at that point of time, giving a stack of APIs which are friendly to them and which has a good high time, it becomes very easy for them to offer financial services to their set of customers. And globally, as well as in India, trend is now picking up that you would want financial services to be omnipresent. Everything and everywhere that you're consuming, you want financial services to be there. This is a very good opportune time for banks as well as NBFCs and the traditional players in the financial services industry to go out and grab a share of the market and the new age tech market. So most of the systems early on were not driven mostly by tech, but increasingly as tech companies are wanting to offer financial services, APIs is one set through which you can reach them. At IFL also we have worked on a lot of aspects to ensure that financial services is made available in a very easy and consumable format to these companies. We've launched our stack of APIs. We are moving towards there are a lot of things that we're doing. We're moving towards a single stack where the APIs, there's just going to be a single stack of APIs for offering your lending journey. Similarly, in IFL Securities also we have launched our stack of APIs. So any account opening and demat account opening, trading that you would want to offer to your set of customers, that is available in the form of APIs. I think that answers the first set of questions, how we are driving the usage of APIs. And from our experience, some of the best practices here is actually to continuously monitor the feedback that the developer ecosystem is giving you from your API standpoint, because it's not just about coding, it's also about ensuring that the documentation and everything is in place. What is the retention that the users have who are using your APIs? What is the usage trend? So all of this is being monitored by us to ensure that there is a best service possible which is given to the ecosystem. And it just doesn't help the ecosystem, it does help the organization also, because increasingly our strategy is that we would want to partner with more fintechs to accelerate the growth of financial services.
Wonderful. No, thanks so much, Maika, for those opening thoughts. And like you aptly put, API and the ecosystem it's creating, the sort of spread it's giving organizations, which is actually helping create new business models all over the place. So it's an amazing opportunity, to utilize those stacks and to grow. So thanks so much for those thoughts. Mohit, if I may come to you. Uh, if you look at it, payments have been at the forefront of digital transformation that we've seen in India. UPI being a prime example of that explosion. And it's estimated that the digital payments industry will grow to a level of 300% of what we have now by 2025. PayU as an organization has been a leading payments gateway. And just wanted to get your thoughts on how you look at sort of supporting this scale and growth.
Now, great question. And as PayU, we operate in a very interesting ecosystem where we have merchants on one side, we have bank and the consumer partnerships on the other side, and we have partners such as Microsoft or IFL on the other side, right? And you all are aware of the sheer growth in payments which is taking place in India. And I assure you, we're just scratching the surface. Much more growth is going to come in. And which is why this particular session is so important for all of us to get right, because platforms, APIs, and the entire tech stack which we build out is the foundation for this growth. And therefore, from a PayU perspective, we are partnering with Microsoft, we're partnering with IFL and others, and we're just trying to build this all out. My own sense is there will be growth because there is demand. But what we need to really build right now is the infrastructure for that sustained growth. And I think that's what we're all doing together.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mohit. Absolutely. I mean, the opportunity is immense. India has the scale as a country to expand far more in terms of financial inclusion and what we could do and who we can bring into the ecosystem. So massive opportunity. Thanks for those thoughts, Mohit. If I may come back to Mahika for the next one, and this is again an interesting one around DEPA, right, which is major developments in the India stack, which is interesting. We're looking at account aggregator, is coming as the next UPI moment, as people say, and hopefully, completely revolutionizing the way we do finance and different aspects of lending and even more, as that happens. So just wanted to pick up your thoughts when you look at, the sort of areas which are coming in like account aggregator and what the industry can do with these, policy interventions or in a new place which are being created as part of the India stack.
So
No, sure. Go
I
ahead.
think I think account aggregator is globally India is the first country to have a system like an account aggregator going live, and there is this is a game changing moment from the financial services standpoint, because one of the challenges for growing financial services penetration in India has always been access to data. You're not able to offer the right kind of product to the right customer because there was not sufficient data which was available, or movement of data, the format in which data was. So for those users to give access to a financial institution was very, very difficult. Now, account aggregator solves the biggest pain point here. The sharing of data is just a OTP or a click away. Banks have come live on the account aggregator ecosystem, and one of the very important data points is your banking data, which gives you, an understanding of what is the financial health of the user, and you can curate various things around that. Lending being one of the use cases, right? So a lot of people in India, specifically in tier 2, tier 3 towns, don't have access to formal lending or formal credit, is because they do not have a right format of data to share with these institutions. Now, with account aggregator, all you have to do is simply give your mobile number and an OTP consent for the financial institution to fetch your data. So this helps the financial institution to underwrite you better, to say, okay, you are a customer who can actually get a loan from me, from a formal institution which you were not able to earlier. And this system, since its launch, right, there is a good amount of progress which has happened in the account aggregator ecosystem. Now, close to 10 banks are already live on the account aggregator ecosystem, which comprises of 60% of the banking population in India. This 60% of population can give me access to their financial information just at a click. So it makes my life so easier to give access to loans to these customers who I was not able to service early on. And I think from specifically from an unsecured lending standpoint, this is a major improvement from a financial institution standpoint, because earlier it was so difficult to reach to these customers or get access to that data. And today, I think we are seeing about 15 to 20% growth month on month for the number of users that are using our platform and wanting to avail a digital loan from us. And the number of users increasingly using account aggregator, close to 15-20% of the users that come on the platform today are using account aggregator as an option to sync their data. Now, government talks about, as the next steps to account aggregator, government talks about linking GST, linking your filing, linking your PF data, all of this data into a single stack. So suddenly what happens is you have just one single integration and one single consent that the user has to give, and you get a 360-degree financial information of a user. Whether I want to curate a financial service, whether I want to curate which fund or a mutual fund suits him the best, whether I want to curate whether he is eligible for a credit line, whether he is eligible for a credit card, all of this, the the data solves for it. And it's as simple as, like in UPI, money moves from one app to another app, and it's as simple as adding a pin. In account aggregator, the financial data moves by just giving an OTP. It's as simple as that, and very easy for users to actually use. So I think it's a very, very great moment. And from an India standpoint, India is the very first country to adopt. Globally, countries are looking at account aggregator and saying, can we adopt this? Can we also implement this? And I think India is far ahead in terms of that.
So true, and you're so nicely explained. And such an important question, this one, and we are probably at such an important point in terms of the intervention we're seeing with account aggregator, and would love to get your views, Mohit, on the same. If you can probably give your thoughts on account aggregator and what it means in terms of opportunities for the Indian market. That would be wonderful.
No, sure. I think Mehak has really covered pretty much everything. So I'll just change the framework a bit. And instead of thinking of it from the perspective of an organization or a financial institution, let's think of it from the perspective of an end customer. What the customer wants is two things. The first is that their data is kept securely and is used for the appropriate purposes. And the second is that their data, and here I'll stress on the word their data, actually enables them to get better, whether it's offers or opportunities in the market. So fundamentally, this is what the account aggregator framework really does. It ensures that customers can take their histories, financial histories, and their backgrounds and potentially offer it to many more financial institutions in order to get the best possible loan or the best possible interest rate or the best possible services. So therefore, this is really flipping the entire ecosystem on its head. And I think this is what will ensure that India actually democratizes its entire payment base or its credit base, and the financially underserved population actually gets access to it, and then it creates that entire open market of and great deal of competition wherein companies can figure out what do they want to do based on their own internal frameworks. So I think that is such an exciting change for all of us here, and we just can't wait to see this start scaling, because that will significantly increase a the business which we are seeing, but more than that, will increase India's GDP as well.
So true, Mohit. And like you said, we are probably at an inflection point. I mean, account aggregator, started out about 3 years ago, and everybody actually said that it would take a certain amount of time to get that maturity. We seem to be at that inflection point now, when it is about to take off. So, I think it's a great time that we're discussing this, and probably as we look at the months ahead is when we start seeing a takeoff on different products. And like you said, even from a consumer perspective, very different ways he can start consuming financial products, and start using his finances for, in a far more wider way than he does today. So great thoughts on that. Sorry, Mike, you have a point on this?
Yeah, it's actually also from an organization standpoint, right? A lot of applications will start developing around account aggregators. So this is something which will be a wave which will come now, because when UPI started, it was just Bheem, and then you had GPay built on it, then you had PhonePe built on it. I think there is yet applications to be built on account aggregators, specifically using the account aggregator framework. I think sooner or later there are fintechs trying to do something, and those apps should be out where you would be able to manage data and consume everything. But that's going to be interesting to see how applications get built around account aggregator.
Absolutely. I think there'll be a whole ecosystem which is going to start, get created around the account aggregator framework. And it is great to see the sort of responses from both of you, on this subject. Microsoft, and probably just pivot a little bit away from account aggregator for a moment, and look at, overall, if you look at digital applications and what it's doing, for our industry across BFSI, right? And in Microsoft today, we work with a lot of organizations who are sort of creating super apps or customer facing applications which are consolidating different parts of how the customer is to interact with them into one place. And would be very keen to understand, Mohit, if I can come to you on this one, and then I'll come to Mahika on the same, because it's such an important intervention from a customer experience perspective, right? We're seeing a whole lot of a plethora of technologies which are now available to the customer. We're seeing a lot of our customers, coming out with interventions like I mentioned, super apps and so on and so forth. What's your thought in terms of adoption of these platforms, and technologies which you're putting out for customers?
Oh, I think adoption has been great, because if you can see what's happening, merchants, which is your end customers, really want to actually focus on their core businesses, and pretty much everything else they want somebody to can come in and help them actually solve for that. So I think adoption is high and it is increasing. We ourselves think that the world has changed to the extent that when it comes to technology and platforms, we need to find the right architecture, we need to find the right partners, ideally a cloud first strategy, and ensuring that you have the right frameworks in place. So if I was to put it simply, it is focus on your core business, make sure that you find the right partners, and everything else becomes onto almost like a no code platform. Think about it from another perspective, the sheer amount of specialization that has taken place in tools and services, that no one company can actually build it out. In the past, even as PayU, we used to always think of actually coming out and creating everything for ourselves. Now we realize that that's possibly not the right strategy, and going forward, we need to bring in the right services. So, for example, from Microsoft, in addition to cloud services, we also use a lot of your business intelligence services as well. And see, why do we do that? We do that because the sheer amount of data in the modern world has increased to the point where no company can come out and actually use it effectively without actually relying on partners who actually bring it out to them and put it in a form factor which is actually consumable. And that leads to end customer satisfaction. Because at the end, if you keep your customers happy, that's how we ourselves will stay in business, especially in a B2B world. So I think that's how I would say that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mohit. Absolutely resonates. Monica, your thoughts on customer facing applications, and the adoption piece. Would love to get your thoughts on that.
When it comes to the applications that customers are trying to, I think it needs to be user friendly, it needs to be easier to access from a customer standpoint, and increasingly customers are wanting something which solves for everything. So they don't So, one of the very important things from a customer standpoint and the highest paid property, I think, would be an app on your mobile. So, the storage that you have on your mobile, you want to limit the usage of the apps that you're using. So, ensuring that a customer gets the right experience onto your app becomes very, very important. Otherwise, today customers don't even, take seconds to uninstall an app if they're not getting the right set of experience. So, to do that, it is very important that you collaborate with different partners who are the best at offering what they're offering, and then you maintain your core systems. That that's precisely the reason that a lot of low code no code platforms are coming up, so that you can focus on your core. There are partners that you can partner with that can take care of other aspects and other services which you might not be as great in developing or giving an experience, and that's how you give a complete package to the user.
Yeah, no, Micah, that's a great segue to the next question I have for you, which is around low code, no code, right? And Microsoft, we have our Power Platform, which is working well with a lot of large financial institutions today, and they're looking at it at low code, no code in a couple of ways. One is in terms of citizen development. So we have say very large banks with 100,000 users plus and all that. How do you infuse? How do you get the best ideas out of people who are there working for you? And a citizen development platform where they can actually create applications of their own. A lot of them are internal applications, is what we see at this point of time. But even moving a little bit towards the customer. So you have citizen developers, and then you have the low code no code platform for orchestration, for RPA and all of that. So I was just wondering, your thoughts on in terms of what we call in Microsoft as tech intensity, or building that resilience internally. Increasingly, we are seeing that the workforce required for a modern organization needs to have a lot of tech intensity built into them, or they grow to that. So your thoughts on how a low code no code platform could help both internal applications and probably even moving towards pro code, or as we call it, towards the customer end of applications.
So I think there are both use cases, and we have also been trying to use a low code no code platform. Now, the benefit that it gets when it comes to a low code no code platform is that you have certain configurations already in place. Now, from a developer to start building, where the certain basic configurations are already in place, the development timelines are faster. The manpower that you need, because you don't have to start from the scratch, is lower, and the efficiency is far higher. This is what we have seen with our experience on the low-code platform. Maintenance is also comparatively lower. Getting resources who can actually take it up from there, because one of the major challenges is, what if there is a developer who developed your platform from the scratch and then he moves on? To give a handover on an understanding of how the entire system was actually built at times becomes a difficult or a challenging task. But with low code platforms coming in, what happens is most of the configurations are already in place, and if they have some amount of understanding, it becomes easier to understand the system and start developing it faster. So your turnaround times are lower, your efficiency is higher, and I think it for from a back end perspective, it is really good to have a low code no code platform. But from a front end or an application standpoint that the user is using, I think there is still time to move towards a low code platform, because the kind of experience that you want to give to the user at times cannot be templatized. So it becomes very difficult to change configurations or manage the designs or the UX that you need on a low code platform when it comes to front end applications. So I think from a back end standpoint, it's easier and more scalable. From a front end standpoint, I think it is still a while away where we will be able to use a low code platform for front end application development.
Great. Thanks, Micah, for that. More just coming to, and probably I just change tracks a little bit here. In terms of running a modern application landscape, it is constantly changing because of customer needs or market needs, etc. From a skill perspective, resource perspective, and as someone who's looking at those aspects very closely, what do you think are the challenges and answers which the industry can look at?
Wow, that's a tough question, simply because I think over the last couple of years, especially in the tech landscape, we've all faced challenges in the right set of talent at an appropriate price point also, right? So that has been a challenge. And therefore, where do companies need to go? Companies need to actually focus more and more on platforms as a service, focus on low code or no code applications. And essentially, I think we all knew that at some point, artificial intelligence, machine learning would actually be far more prominent in our, not on PowerPoint or presentations, but actually in our real tech stacks. And I think that journey has sort of been speeded up. Now we are all trying to see how can we actually bring in enablers to make us work better. So therefore, in the future knowledge economy, you will have a core set of core developers who are really doing very innovative stuff, largely move on to low code, no code sort of platforms and services, and then have many generalists who can come in, and then on the back end where you actually have configuration type of changes and actually come out and do that kind of stuff. So I think that's the direction which we are all thinking of. And from a payu perspective, I can assure you, while we have, it's perhaps the benefit of being in a great sector like fintech, which is still in demand. But I think for us, the challenges has been less than in many other places. But many of my friends who are in other startups have actually faced this problem. And I think this is the direction in which they're all thinking, is how can we actually get in the specialists to do whatever is required. Even if you think about your earlier question on embedded finance, it is where non-financial companies can largely start using financial services. For them to create that on their own is possibly 6 months to 2 years, and then a lot of work. But if you just create, if you have APIs which you can consume from somebody else, like a PayU or an IFL, great, you can be up and running immediately, right? So I think that's how we're thinking about it.
Oh, great, and my takeaways and great guidance there, Mohit. Platform as a service, low code, no code, especially from a talent perspective, like you mentioned, the challenges which the industry does face. That's probably the direction we are seeing as well, largely across the FSI. So it's wonderful to see that that resonates. Probably I'll have one last question for both of you, and again, won't be something which you wouldn't have anticipated, but on data. And this is where I probably want to start off with you, Mohit, and get your thoughts on how are you looking at data, both from a consolidation perspective, leveraging and monetizing data, and what's your thoughts on how do you look at getting the most for your organization when you look at the data estate?
So from my perspective, I think, see, in payments, and especially as PayU is largely a payment gateway aggregator, we are in a very tough environment with wafer thin margins. So obviously for us to maximize internal efficiencies, and something as simple as a transaction is originated by an end customer, how do we ensure that that transaction succeeds at the highest success or approval rates and with the lowest costs for me? So there are huge internal usages of data to just ensure that there is peak performance. The second part of data is when you think about things such as embedded finance or any other service, how do we actually ensure that we create the frameworks for that data to be used in the right way under the constraints of privacy laws, data protection bills, GDPR, etc. Right? So there are frameworks to be done and how to actually use that. And the third thing with data is today, while a lot of people talk about data being valuable, data is oil, etc., but we're not even scratching the surface. I think we're still a few millimeters off the surface when it comes to how data is actually monetized or used. So I think in many ways we are still trying to figure out the frameworks for how data can be used, and basically bringing data in from 5 to 10 years back, potentially on Excel or email somewhere, into DBs, and from DBs now into what they call data lakes, where you can actually consume that data near real time in an effective manner, while ensuring that safety and security of that data, consent is utilized. So I think very early days, a lot of talk, but picture abhi shuru nahi hui hai.
A great way to put it, Mohit. Picture of shuru nahi, absolutely agree. In fact, me and Mahika, just before the recording started, were talking on data and data lakes, etc. We are fortunate in Microsoft to work with a lot of very large financial institutions for the data lake. So a lot of learnings that we draw from that. But Mahika, your thoughts on the subject we were discussing earlier around data, and how would an organization like IFL, which is so diversified, look at monetizing, utilizing data?
So I think there is as Mohit rightly pointed out, there's a long way to go when it comes to data, and everything that a user does gets captured in some form or the other in our systems today. And for us, what is more critical is analyzing users' data to understand whether we can offer them financial services, or whether I can offer them a loan or not. So right now, we have been harnessing our capabilities with respect to data to see how better can I underwrite a customer which is getting rejected today onto my platform. So whether if it's a customer who's an NTC customer who doesn't has a bureau record, how do I underwrite that customer? Can there be certain behavioral trends or alternate data which could be used to underwrite that customer? So we're capturing, we've embarked on the journey where we're capturing a lot of amount of user behavior data, bureau data, banking data, and we've been working on ensuring how do we get maximum amount of users under an ambit where we are able to give them some form of credit, even if it means a smaller line. Can I give that user even a smaller line who's today getting rejected in my system? So one of the important use cases, or the way we have been trying to use data, is to see, is my rejection going down? And another aspect where we use data, or where we're trying to build on, is that every customer that starts a journey, because it's a digital world and everything is happening digitally, the customer is also availing the service digitally. Where are the drop offs? Where is the customer dropping off? Why is he not moving ahead in the journey? Right now, this is very, very important, both from my standpoint of analyzing a user behavior, as well as analyzing whether my systems are working up to the mark or not, right? So we're using data there as well to see where the drop-offs are, to see how we can optimize that and say, the drop-offs have to be minimum, the customer should be able to complete the journey. And the third important aspect, that where we are using data right now, is to curate certain offers for good set of customers. So, if a customer has been with me for a longer time, can I give him certain loyalty? Can I run some offer for him to get him back to avail a loan with me? Can I give him offers like, there's going to be no processing fees? And the same thing we are replicating onto the drop offs as well. So wherever the user drops off, can I nudge him better? Can I give him certain instant offer which gets him to complete the journey? Can I give him a better offer? Now all these are actually use cases around data, but as Mohit highlighted, these are just early days. There are far many more use cases with respect to data in terms of optimization and conversions that data can be used for.
Thanks, Micah, and completely agree with both of you. We're just scratching the surface on data right now. It's just a huge amount of use cases which will probably come out, in days ahead, and how we learn from different organizations as they utilize data for, for their customers, for themselves, for risk, security, and compliance, and all those areas. So, completely agree. That's just the start of a great phase on data, like most other areas of technology, which we talked about. Uh, with that, I'd like to thank both of you for your thoughts, and for making time today to spend with us on Microsoft's Future Ready Application Summit. And thank you for these for the views which you shared, which I'm sure our viewers will benefit from. And we look forward to having you again on one of our discussions as we go ahead. But thanks, Mohit, and thanks, Micah, for making time and being with us today.